Welcome to another video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. We've got a really exciting year coming up this year. If you saw my last video, you'll have heard that I'm going to France in May, but also I've got 2 Richworth socials to go on, where one to the Blue Pool, one to Gold Lake, and I'm also doing 5 or 6 nights on the mainland as a bit of a road trip with my mate in July, and also, you know, my regular sessions which I'll be doing throughout the year, and also I'll hopefully be putting together some more sort of tuitional videos for you, rig tying and you know, tips and beginners tips even. I've been asked by a few people for some beginners tips, so might be doing that as well this year. So yeah, please subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. So this session then, we've come down to the day ticket that you've seen in quite a few of my previous videos, and unusually for me, we're down the other end of the lake. I normally like to fish at the sort of car park end of the lake. I did really well last winter in there. I think in January I had something like 9 fish, you know, so it was obvious that the fish were down that end, but this year I've really struggled down that end, and just lately there's been quite a few fish coming out from this far end of the lake, and so I thought, well, if you can't beat them, join them, sort of thing. You've got to fish where the fish are. And even though that end, you know, has seen quite a bit of my bait over the winter, the fish just haven't really been getting down there, and you know, there's been coots diving, and it's just sort of been frustrating really. And then, you know, when people fish this end, they've been having the odd fish, so I thought, well, why not give it a go and see how I get on. So I got here yesterday quite late in the day, probably sort of 3:30, 4 o'clock, so I didn't have an awful lot of time for filming. So you've joined me sort of the first morning of my session, if you like, but we are doing 2 nights on this session, so probably around about 36 hours. You know, we got here Sunday late afternoon and we're leaving Tuesday early morning, so a bit of a luxury. A lot of the time I've been doing it overnighters lately, but yeah, I managed to squeeze in an extra night this time because the conditions were looking good. We've just had Storm Freya, I think it was called. We had sort of 40-50 mile an hour winds and rain, and you know, sort of good conditions really for winter. I've talked about that before in previous videos. You know, you've got to look for these weather windows and try and get out when you can. So yeah, I've come down and I'm fishing the other end of the lake, and actually happy to say that I've had one in the night. So I'll get that one out for you very shortly, and we'll have a look, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about the tactics, how I caught it, and then I'll talk to you about what the rest of this video is going to be about. Okay guys, I'll get the fish out and I'll catch you in a minute. Right guys, I just weighed this one and it's 17 pound 12, so not the biggest fish in the lake by any stretch, but really stunning, and nice to get it, you know, in the daylight. Well, you know, I caught it just before first light, but thought I'd save it, you know, for an hour or so in the sling, nice and safe, just so I could show it to you guys properly really. And yeah, it's absolutely stunning, I'm sure you'll agree. Hopefully it's going to behave itself. Obviously it's been sat for a little while in the water, so it's, you know, it's got its breath back. So if they're flipping around like this, I like to just cover their eyes up, you know, makes them calm down, and pour a little bit of water on them, try and get a bit in the gills, and then hopefully they'll calm down enough that you can pick them up. Just got to be nice and confident. And there we go, absolutely cracking looking mirror, just under 18 pound, 17.12, and I had this one in the sling, and the owner came down. I was chatting to him, and one of the other rods has ripped off as well, so happy days. We've got another one in the net there waiting to be weighed, and I'll show you that one as well. It's a little bit bigger than this one, so yeah, we'll get this one back, get the other one out, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about the tactics. Right guys, here's the second fish I've had this morning. Well, the first one was, sort of just before first light, and then this one I was just chatting to the owner with one fish in the retainer ready for some photos, and then this rod's ripped off as well, so I had one in the net and one in the retainer, so happy days. I've done 3 or 4 blanks in a row, and now I've had 2 fish in the space of a few hours. It's funny how it goes. Yeah, so this one, I've just weighed it and it was £22 10 ounces, so a little bit bigger than the last one. Hopefully there's more to come, we'll see. It's got a really cool little withered peck fin. Don't know if you can see that there, I'll show you a close-up. I think I might have to call it Nemo. It's a really cool fish. Nice and fat. I think they've obviously been on a munch lately. A lot of the fish have been coming out at their best weight, so they've definitely been eating something. There's a lot of natural in this lake, and obviously angler's bait and stuff, and they're doing really well, so it's exciting for the future. So yeah, well happy with that. 2 fish on my first night, still got another night to go, and obviously I've got today to fish as well, so there may be time for more. So stay tuned guys, we're going to get this one back and we'll talk to you a little bit about the tactics, how I caught it, and I'll talk to you about what the rest of this video is about as well. I've not actually told you yet, although I'm sure the title gives it away. Right, let's get this fish back. Right guys, I just wanted to run you through the tactics for this session and the successful tactics that I've just caught those 2 fish. I'm sure you're dying to know, as it's been successful. So I normally tend to cast when I'm fishing. A lot of the time I cast anyway, but I've sort of decided that I want to try and put out a bit of a mixture of baits, like small bits of crumb, half baits, and different sized baits. Richworth start doing the 10mm boilies and also the tigers as well. So to get those out in a nice neat pile with my hook bait, there's no better way than a bait boat. So ashamed to say it, hold my hands up, I used a bait boat, but basically I've used my withered pool rig, this one, which I've shown you on several videos now, and it's just an angling iron size 6 curve hook, with a nice curved kicker and a shot on it and a bit of putty to weigh it down, and a nice sort of bait screw there with a pop up, and yeah, I've just put that out with a bit of a mixture of S-core, different sized S-core and a few of the nuts and stuff just on an area, and that's what's worked. So I thought, I'd have a bit of a change of swim, but also a bit of a change of tactic, and it seems to have worked for me. So I'm absolutely over the moon to have caught a couple, because I've had a real struggle this winter. I've had about 4 blanks in a row now, so it's nice to get a couple of fish under my belt fairly early in this session. I've still got today and tonight to fish, so I'm really happy, and I can just relax now and enjoy my fishing, so that's awesome. And the main focus of this video was to talk about my plans for the spring and how you can plan your spring to hopefully get the most out of this brilliant time of year to be out on the bank. The fish are waking up, they're hungry, they're getting ready for spawning, so they need to sort of build up their energy reserves and everything for that. So they will sort of feed a lot more regularly than they do through the winter, and if you can find them and if you can put something in front of them that they want to eat, then you'll do really well. So later on in the video we'll be talking about planning for a spring campaign, and yeah, I'm going to be getting on with a bit more filming for my jag video. I think I talked about that in the last vlog that I did. There was a couple of bits that I needed to change on the video before it's finally finished, so in a minute I'll probably wind in the rods and go do a bit of work on that. and then I'll come back, get the rods out this afternoon, and hopefully tonight or tomorrow morning we'll have another fish or two to show you. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about the planning for spring, and yeah, who knows, we might have another fish. Right guys, so it's about lunchtime now, and I wound in earlier to sort of rest the swim, but also I went to the other end of the lake to finish filming my video for Jag. I don't know if you saw my last video, but Jag have asked me to do some promo videos for them this year, which I'm really excited about, and I actually finished one the other day and there was a couple of bits that needed changing, so I went back to the swim where I filmed it so it all looked the same, you know, and I went and finished filming that, so hopefully I can edit that this week and deliver the finished video to them and get that one signed off. So that'll be really cool, you know, my first ever proper video, you know, and what a company to be working for. You know, I've used Jag products for, well, 5 years or so. I've had my pod, you know, and I've got some of their other bits knocking around. Really good quality stuff and lasts a lifetime, you know, so I'm absolutely made up to be asked to work with them, and hopefully, you know, this year could see some really exciting things happening. So that's all good. So yeah, I've finished that video and then I come back to my swim and got the rods back out now. So I'm probably just going to leave the rods out now until something happens, or until I leave tomorrow, because you know, this time of year you don't want to keep moving the rods all the time. You know, you want to set little traps and then kind of leave them until the fish comes along and finds it, because if you keep moving your rods, you know, you're only spreading bait around and making it harder for yourself to sort of pinpoint where the fish are. You know, you're just spreading the fish out really. So stick to a spot once you've picked it, and you know, and leave the rigs in place. So yeah, the main purpose of this video, I wanted to talk to you about spring fishing and how you can sort of plan your spring campaign. If you've sort of been leaving the harder waters alone throughout the winter, now's the time, as it's warming up, to go start walking the banks again, you know, looking for shows at first light or last light, maybe trickle in a little bait into certain areas, start doing the prep work so that when it really does kick off and spring's in full swing, you know that you've found the fish and the hard work's been done for you, and you can kind of turn up and hopefully be successful straight away. You know, there's no point waiting, not going anywhere near the water and then just turning up and hoping for the best. You'll probably find that you're not quite so successful that way. So my first tip really for spring fishing is start walking the banks again on your sort of target water for that year, and try and find a fish, and then maybe give them some food so they're used to eating it. The next thing is carp location in the spring. I think the absolute most important thing is to find a shallower water. As the sort of water's warming up, I said this time and time again, but you know, that warm water will rise, and the fish tend to sort of look for that warmer water as the lake's warming up, and they'll follow it. So get on the end of the wind, you know, and look for the sort of shallower areas of the lake, and also any areas that you think the fish are likely to spawn, sort of May, June time. The fish will start sort of frequenting those areas a little bit more, you know, reeds and weed beds, and perhaps lilies that are coming up and places like that. The carp start hanging around those areas again. So it's definitely worth investigating when you turn up at the lake, you know, looking all the reeds and all the little hidey holes around the edges and see if there's any fish got in there, and then work out how you can fish safely for them. And next really is bait and you know, application. I wouldn't use very much bait at all in the spring. A small handful of bait, you know, maybe 10 baits and then 10 sort of crumbed up baits if you can, that sort of thing, just enough for a bite. You know, a couple of mouthfuls for the fish is all you really need this time of year. If you go put, you know, a couple of kilos of bait in, you're only sort of reducing your chances really. I think the fish aren't really that hungry yet, they're just looking for little sort of pick-me-ups really as they come out of the winter, and they don't go for big long feeding spells. They just have a little brief munch every now and again until it really properly warms up. So yeah, small amount of bait rather than piling it in. And then rig wise and hook bait wise, I pretty much always fish a pop-up in the spring, and usually a bright one as well. White, yellow, orange, pink, probably my favourite colours. Tend to use white and yellow the most, I would say, but done quite well on pink, and starting to use orange a bit more, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, anything bright, because in the winter the carp's senses and their eyesight sort of dull down slightly, and as they're coming out of that in the spring, they still can't see all that well, and also they're inquisitive this time of year. When it's warming up, they're kind of looking around again, they're moving around, and they see things and they wonder what it is. And, as their eyesight's not that good, you can get away with the pop-up a bit more, and that bright flash of colour can just catch their eye and persuade them to pick it up. So yeah, I tend to use a bright pop-up on my with a pool rig at this time of year, just to try and nick a bite from those inquisitive fish. And sometimes a single in the right place is better than putting out a whole load of bait and waiting for the fish to come to you. You've got to kind of find where the carp are moving and the patrol routes and holding areas. If you look back to my video on choosing the right spot for carp fishing, there's a bit more information on that there. I'll put a link down below. But yeah, so light baiting, pop-ups pretty much all the way through until, I don't know, like mid-summer really, and then I start going more towards snowman, because I think pop-ups can be a bit blatant when the fish are really alert, unless you're fishing a weedy lake, and then you kind of have to fish a pop-up. But sometimes if you find a clear spot, you can get away with a snowman or a bottom bait anyway. So I'd always try and sort of move away from pop-ups once I think the fish have kind of properly woken up. And then yeah, it's all about kind of using your eyes, because the fish are becoming more active and moving around, and they will start to show again. In the winter, quite often on lakes you won't see a fish show all winter, but then suddenly kind of March time they start sticking their heads out again and splashing around, and it only takes a couple of shows in an area to give you a good spot to go at for the spring, or at least a certain time of day. If you kind of write everything down, and when you see shows, you can build a picture of where the fish like to spend certain times a day. And then the last thing really that I particularly like to do in the spring is look for a margin that gets the majority of the sunlight, because once again, that shallower area along the margin where the sun hits will be warming up quicker, and the fish quite often, especially if there's a snag or something, they'll go and sit where they can get warm, but also feel safe, and in the daytime especially, they'll go sit on that sort of warm margin, and then maybe at night they'll move back into the open water and down slightly deeper. So possibly have a daytime spot or morning spot when the sun first gets on the margin, have that in mind, and then for night time you might want an open water spot, so you can sort of bounce between the two and see what's producing at what time of day really. So yeah, that's about it. I mean, you could bang on for hours about it, but as long as you watch the water, keep walking around trying to find a fish, and then don't put too much bait in, but maybe trickle bait in between sessions, small bit of bait when you're actually fishing, look for the shallow water, and then maybe fish a pop-up or a bright pop-up over the top. You won't go far wrong in the spring really, and I've definitely had more fish when baiting lightly than I have heavy at this time of year, so bear that in mind. It all does depend on what water you're fishing. Some lakes are really heavily stocked, and then a lot of bait can work, so you have to use a bit of your own initiative on that, but that's my thoughts on it. If anyone's got any other ideas how they go about their spring fishing, I'd love to hear it. We'll all help each other out, so comments down below if you've got time, guys, and we can maybe get a bit of a discussion going about how it's best to approach spring fishing, because you know everyone's learning, I'm still learning, and any tips you can get along the way is always, you know, helpful and helps us all enjoy our fishing, doesn't it? So I hope that's been useful for you. As I said, I've got all 3 rods out again now, ready for the night, so I feel like I've kind of done my work. I've done my jag video, got the rods out, you know, I can really relax now. So I'm gonna have some nice lunch. I think I've got some nice chicken soup, and yeah, just watch the water, and hopefully something will happen before it gets dark. But you know, I'll keep you updated, and maybe do a little bit more just before it gets dark. You know, I'll sort of update you and let you know the plan for the night, and then yeah, we'll see what happens. So we're coming into the evening now. It's 5:10, and I thought I'd just give you a little update. As far as weather goes today, we've had quite a lot of sunshine, but it's been very mixed. You know, we've had a few showers coming through. It's been quite damp the whole session so far. I mean, last night I didn't tell you, but it was absolutely pouring down, and I woke up in the night, the rain was hitting me in the face, you know, so I had to zip the door down, and all the mud was splashing up and gone all over everything inside my bivvy. So yeah, it wasn't that much fun last night, but then I did have those 2 fish this morning, so that kind of makes up for it. And then today, you know, it's been a bit nicer, although we have had a little bit of rain, but I think it's due to be slightly cooler tonight. There's still quite a bit of wind around, so not bad conditions. So yeah, fairly hopeful that something might happen, but you just never know. I might have got lucky this morning, and we may find that nothing happens tomorrow morning, but we'll see. As expected, not a lot's happened today. I think the fish are just feeding in very short, you know, small windows, as they do this time of year, and you know, it's down to you to kind of work out when them times are and kind of record them, so you know you can capitalise on that and fish at your most effectively around those times, and then the rest of the time can be spent, you know, preparing and looking and trying to find other areas, and you know, trying to find the fish. So I'm hoping sort of sometime in the early hours, or you know, in the morning like we had this morning, we may get another fish, but until then, you know, I can kind of relax, which is quite nice really. I'm not sort of on the edge of my seat expecting the rod to go, although you know, it feels like ages since I had a fish now, so it would be nice to have another one before it gets dark, but it seems fairly unlikely, so I'll just have to sit on my hands and wait, won't I? So yeah, what have we done? We've got basically the same tactics we had last night, except I've moved one of my rods. It was on a bit of a patrol route where I think the fish might have gone up and down, but I didn't really feel like it was doing me any good, so I've moved it a bit closer to the rod that had the fish, because I had 2 fish near that area, so I thought, well, I'll get another rod in there and it gives me another chance of a take, and then my other rod's kind of where it was anyway, because I've had a few fish there before. So we've now kind of got 2 rods on one spot and then 1 rod on its own, and I've got, you know, my 3 white pop-ups on the Willy Pool rigs, just with a few of the 10mm core and a bit of crumb around it, and that's it really. And I think I said earlier, you know, literally just a handful of bait this time of year. We're still sort of in winter. I mean, it's early March. We've had a few warmer days and the water temperatures come up, you know, I think it's around 9 now, so we're very near that time when things start kicking off, so you know, that's why the fish are getting caught, you know, but it's still, you still got to be cautious this time of year. So I'm not going to be piling the bait in. I've just literally got a handful on each rod and hoping for the best. So that's about where we're up to. We've got just tonight, and then we'll be finishing tomorrow morning. So you know, fingers crossed as always that something's going to happen. But if not, you know, I've had those 2 fish and they're absolutely gorgeous, and it's nice to sort of break the spell of blanks. I look back and I thought it was about 4 blanks. It turns out it was only 2, but it always feels like more. I had a fish in January and then did 2 sessions in February and blanked, and now we're in March. I've had those 2 fish, so yeah, you know, I'm not doing too bad, but certainly compared to last year, my winter hasn't been anywhere near as good, and I think, you know, that's something to be learned from that. I should have maybe, as I was not catching, I should have maybe tried some other areas rather than sticking to an area that was productive last year. It doesn't always mean it's going to be productive every year, and you've got to kind of find a fish. So, you know, next year, next winter, I'll definitely be putting a bit more effort in to find the fish rather than just sort of sitting on a spot that I've caught on before. So yeah, probably gonna put some dinner on in a minute. I've got some curry for tonight and a nice bit of rice, and yeah, just see what the night brings really. Obviously, if there's any fish, I'll keep you updated, or if anything, you know, happens, I'll show you. But if not, then I guess we'll see you in the morning, and hopefully we're holding a nice big fat winter carp. Well, morning guys. A bit of a quiet night in the end. Pleased to say that I managed to get some sleep. One bonus of being this end of the lake is that I'm quite far away from where the geese seem to live on the island, and around that other swim, and so they're not quite as noisy this end, as you'll probably hear. All I can really hear is blackbirds and things this morning, and that's lovely, you know. I don't mind that. It's just the geese that do my head in. Yeah, so it's nice to have had a bit of sleep, but unfortunately that means there's been no more fish. I think you'll see on the footage it's totally different to yesterday morning. We've got really clear skies, not a breath of wind, so I presume the pressure's increased, you know, and it's definitely made it colder, and definitely made the fishing harder, hence why we've not caught anything. So goes back to what I said earlier, you know, looking for that window of opportunity with the weather. I was only meant to be fishing Monday night on this session, but then I saw that there was a storm coming through, so I phoned up the owner and managed to get on for the night before, and that's when the weather was good, and I've had those 2 fish, you know, and if I hadn't done that, quite possibly I would have blanked again. So, you know, it shows you how much thought goes into winter fishing. And now we're moving into spring. Hopefully the tips that I gave you earlier in the video will help you sort of think about what you're going to do this spring, and how to go about planning your campaign in the spring. So as far as this video goes, we're probably just about done. If you look at the length of the video, if it seems a bit longer than just this bit of talking, it probably means I've caught one, so make sure you watch till the end, because I will show you any more fish that I catch, but if not, that'll be the end of the video. If you've liked the video, please remember to give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out, guys, and comment below any spring tips that you've got for me and anyone else that might read them, and stay tuned on my channel, because very soon coming up we're going to have a video called 10 tips to save money when carp fishing. It's a very expensive hobby, but you can definitely save money and do it on a bit of a budget. So I'm going to be making a video all about how to save money with carp fishing. Remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification icon if you want to see my future videos. And yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.